Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are tuning in from. Thank you for joining us today for this virtual monthly presentation. I am joined by Emma and Jen. My name is Lexi, and we will be your presenters today. And today we're going to delve into a topic that affects each and every one of us every day, no matter where we are: noise. We're going to dig deeper into the topic of noise and specifically speak about hearing loss and ear safety. So let's get started. So let's start by exploring how noise surrounds us in each areas of our lives, starting with work. Whether you're in a bustling office, a manufacturing facility, or even a remote workspace, there are constant sounds that fill our environment. Office chatter, ringing phones, printers, and typing sounds from a background to our daily routines. For those in industrial settings, the sounds of machinery and equipment can become a part of their everyday work life. Now shifting the focus to our homes, a place where we seek solace and relaxation. But it's not always the quiet haven we envision. Household appliances, televisions, kids playing, pets, and even traffic outside our windows contribute to the soundscape of our homes. And often we become so accustomed to these noises that we don't realize their impact. And aside from work and home, we find ourselves in various places in between. During our commute, at public spaces, shopping centers, and recreational areas. These environments expose us to a myriad of sounds, from honking cars to announcements, music, and conversations of passerbys. And these excessive or prolonged exposure to noise can lead to stress, anxiety, and even health issues. It can disrupt our sleep, impair cognitive function, and contribute to hearing problems over time. And when we speak about hearing loss, we're referring to that decrease in our ability to hear or understand speech and the sounds around us, which is why ear safety is so important, because our ears are incredibly delicate and can be easily damaged by loud noises. Hearing loss has been shown to negatively impact nearly every dimension of the human experience, including physical health, emotional, and mental health. Perceptions of mental acuity, social skills, family relationships, and self-esteem, as well as work and school performance. And as you can see on this slide, let's examine some of these statistics. In the US, hearing loss affects approximately 20% of teenagers, about 1 in 5, potentially influencing their academic and social experiences. Surprisingly, a considerable number of adults aged 20 to 69 in the US, approximately 80%, are living with undiagnosed and untreated hearing loss, raising concerns about their overall well-being. Globally, an astonishing 1.5 billion people currently grapple with hearing loss in at least one ear, which illustrates the scale of the problem on an international level. And then looking ahead, the World Health Organization predicts that by 2050, about 32% of the global population will be experiencing some degree of hearing loss. So hearing loss is undoubtedly a pressing concern, with far-reaching consequences for individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and regions. So let's continue our exploration of this topic. And you might be wondering how all this works. Well, let's start with understanding just exactly how we hear. And when we hear noise, it is because of vibrations, or AKA those sound waves, that reach our ears, and we recognize those vibrations as speech, music, or other sounds. So we have a quick video to anatomically describe how vibrations are translated into the sounds we hear. Awesome. Now let's talk about how does sound cause damage to one's ear. We now know it is a thing, but how does that exactly work? The average person is born with around 16,000 hair cells within their cochlea. And when noise is too loud, it begins to kill the nerve endings in the inner ear. And as the exposure time to loud noises increases, more and more of those nerve endings are destroyed. And as the number of nerve endings decreases, so does your hearing. Have you ever noticed after leaving a very loud event, such as a concert or football game, that you don't hear as well as before? You might not hear whispers, sound might even seem muffled, or you may hear ringing in your ears. And this is because the hair cells, similar to those blades of grass, will bend more if the sound becomes louder. But they will become straight again after a recovery period. And normal hearing usually returns within a few hours to a few days. However, if loud noise damaged too many of those hair cells, some of them will die and they cannot come back. Up to 30 to 50% of hair cells can be damaged or destroyed before changes in your hearing can be measured by a hearing test. And by the time you notice hearing loss, many hair cells have already been destroyed and cannot be repaired. There's no way to restore life to the dead nerve endings. The damage is permanent, which is why we're here talking about how important ear safety is.
Now, as Lexi was talking about, exposure to loud noise is one of the most common causes of hearing loss. Now, this can occur through occupational exposure, such as working in a factory or at a construction site, or it can happen through recreational activities like listening to music at high volumes or frequently attending loud music or sports events. Now, loud noise isn't the only cause of hearing loss. There's some other causes, including aging. So age-related hearing loss, which is also known as presbycusis, is a natural part of the aging process and affects most people to some degree as they get older. Additionally, certain medications, such as antibiotics and chemotherapy drugs, can be ototoxic, meaning toxic to the ear, and cause hearing loss as well. Another common cause of hearing loss is genetics. So some types can be inherited through genes, like congenital hearing loss and other disorders. Genetic factors make some people more susceptible to hearing loss than others. Their genes make them more predisposed to hearing loss either due to aging or being induced by noise, drugs, or infections, like ear infections or meningitis. It's also estimated that the causes of age-related hearing loss are about 35 to 55% genetic. Now, other common causes of hearing loss can be trauma, where head injuries or trauma to the ear can cause hearing loss, as well as tumors in the ear or in the brain causing hearing loss. Ear infections and diseases can also cause blockages of the ear canal. Even wax buildup can cause hearing loss. So there are all kinds of different causes, and some of these things can work together. Maybe hearing loss is caused by a combination of aging, genetics, and medication in one person, and only caused by exposure to loud noises in another person. Now, you might be asking yourself, how loud is loud, or how loud is too loud? And we want to be looking at decibels. So decibels are a way of measuring sound. Measurements, which begin at 0, indicate the softest sound that can be heard. As decibel levels increase, so does the amount of damage that can be done to your ears. Now, decibels function on a logarithm scale. So 20 decibels is not twice as loud as 10 decibels. Small increases in decibels actually mean big increases in the intensity of sound. Everyday sounds like normal conversation won't generally harm your hearing. These sounds are usually under 70 decibels. Louder sounds, like those created by lawnmowers, motorcycles, blaring music, can reach up to 120 decibels and cause hearing loss over a period of time. Sounds that are above 120 decibels, like a firecracker or sirens, can cause immediate or permanent hearing loss. Now think about it this way. If sounds heard above that 120 decibel threshold hold the potential to cause permanent hearing loss, just think about some of these events. So concerts and festivals average between 90 and 120 decibels. A baby crying sits around 110. sports games around 117, and your average fireworks show 150 to 175 decibels. So this is something to keep in mind when we're considering our exposure. Now, next we want to think, how long were we exposed to noise? So 100 decibels for 14 minutes, or even 110 decibels for as low as 2 minutes can cause serious damage. Now, that's, like we were talking about, listening to a baby cry for 14 minutes, or even for 2 minutes can cause damage. Let's look at 2 to 3 hours, even 85 decibels. So, not quite at a concert level, but maybe you're at a busy bar. That for 2 to 3 hours, that can also be damaging. It's important to note that that time adds up. That noise impact on your ear, it is cumulative over time. So frequent exposure puts you at a greater risk. Now, the reality is that we can't escape noise. It's part of our life. However, you can take small preventative measures to decrease the chances of developing hearing loss. So how do you know if you need to, how do you know if you need to pay attention to hearing loss or if you're having symptoms of hearing loss? So if you find yourself needing to increase the volume when you watch TV or when you're listening to music, if you experience ringing in your ear, if you find some noises really bothersome or get headaches, or if you find it hard to follow along in conversation, if you have trouble hearing people, these are all signs that you might have noise-induced hearing loss.
Thanks, Emma. So now that we understand what can damage our hearing, what can we do to protect our hearing? There are some everyday practices that will help keep your ears and hearing safe and mitigate the risk of hearing loss. These include avoiding high volumes in headphones, or if you're driving in your car, set volume limitations on your mobile devices. You can also avoid participating in high-risk activities. If you are going to be in a high-risk or a high decibel area, the use of earplugs or earmuffs whenever possible. When you're surrounded by loud noise, having that extra barrier over your ears is really a wonderful way to help protect them. Take breaks from the noise. So if you are on a long call or doing something else for a prolonged period of time, give your ears a break. You can sit in silence for a little bit. Avoid sitting right next to the source of noise if you are at something like a concert or a movie. Give yourself some space from the source of that noise. And then there are some vitamins and minerals that have shown to provide natural ear improvement: vitamin B, magnesium, and zinc. Now, a disclaimer about not only those supplements, but all of the recommendations that you'll hear today. We are not certified medical professionals, and therefore this is not offering direct medical advice or any diagnosing of health conditions. The information that we provide on hearing loss prevention and for treatments is general information only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. So if you do have any concerns about your hearing or any other health issues, please consult with a qualified healthcare provider for individualized guidance and treatment. If you're experiencing symptoms of hearing loss, it's important to contact your primary care provider, as hearing loss may harm your health in other ways. Hearing loss can have an impact on our quality of life, make it difficult to communicate with others, and hard to participate in social activities. So by protecting your hearing, you can ensure that you're able to continue enjoying the sounds of everyday life, from conversations with loved ones to music from your favorite band. Tinnitus is a common condition characterized by ringing, buzzing, or hissing sounds in the ear. It can be caused by exposure to loud noises, and tinnitus can be temporary or permanent. So again, protecting your hearing can help prevent tinnitus from developing. Our occupational hazards, we all have hearing risks in all industries, and over 22 million US workers are exposed to hazardous noise levels at work each year. Over 30 million US workers are exposed to chemicals, some of which are harmful to the ear and hazardous to our hearing as well. Many workplaces do require employees to wear ear protection to prevent the exposure of hazardous noise levels, and failure to wear appropriate and adequate ear protection can result in occupational hearing loss, which can affect an employee's ability to perform their job effectively. Protecting your hearing is important for your long-term health and well-being. Hearing loss has been linked to a variety of health conditions, including depression, anxiety, heart disease, and cognitive decline. So when you think about preserving your hearing, you're really helping to reduce the risk of developing other conditions later in life as well. What does a hearing test look like? There are 3 primary hearing tests that could be conducted, and so I will go through each. A pure tone audiometry hearing test is the most common test performed. This is done by a machine called an audiometer, which produces a range of beeps and whistles. As those beeps and whistles happen, you usually have some sort of button to press, and that will indicate when you hear the sound. I had to have this test done recently after bursting an eardrum, and the test is really simple. The button and the device that you're listening to, it's all very easy. So if you're listening to those tones, those beeps and whistles through headphones, then your air conduction hearing is being tested. And this tests the outer ear, the hearing pathway, as well as your inner ear. If you listen to those sounds through a bone conductor, which is a vibrator held against the mastoid bone, kind of behind your ear, the sound in your inner hearing pathway can be measured. So again, that's the pure tone audiometry test, and super simple. A speech discrimination test. This is really looking at how clearly you are hearing the speech of others. So speech discrimination tests require you to repeat words after someone else says them to you. Age-related hearing loss typically begins with the loss of higher frequencies, and so there are certain speech sounds, P, F, T, that end up sounding very similar if you have this hearing loss. Online hearing tests are also a way to evaluate. You can wear headphones and check your hearing in background noise. This is developed by, there are some that are developed by the National Acoustics Laboratories in Australia, and it takes less than 5 minutes to evaluate your hearing. It's designed for adults, and again, it could be a good place to start. Now that we know how to be treated and seen, now that we know how to be seen for those hearing loss issues, we want to know what treatment there is. There are plenty of tools that can help if you're experiencing hearing loss. Hearing aids. There are so many types of hearing aids, including removable earpieces, surgically placed implants that amplify the specific frequencies that you have trouble with. They can be custom made to treat varying levels of hearing loss from mild to severe. Cochlear implants, which are surgically implanted devices that directly stimulate the auditory nerve when your natural cochlea has been damaged. These are typically only used for those who have significant high frequency hearing loss. There is therapy for hearing loss, and it can help you learn to live with whatever hearing loss you already have. Some include learning lip reading or moving conversations to a quieter area. Hearing amplifiers, these look a lot like hearing aids, but they're different in the way that they work to amplify all the sound in the surrounding area without isolating any specific frequencies. Amplifiers can increase the sound in hearing people speak, listening to music, watching television, hearing sounds in your environment while you're out and about. This method of treatment is more so intended for individuals that have mild hearing loss. So again, if you're feeling like you're at risk for hearing loss or already experiencing some symptoms of hearing loss, please talk to your healthcare provider for diagnosis and treatment options that would be best suited for you.
Thank you, Jen. As we move forward in our discussion on reducing noise exposure in our daily lives, I want to encourage each one of you to ask yourself some questions. And these questions will help us assess and make informed decisions about how we can safeguard our hearing health. 1, how loud is the volume? When you find yourself in a noisy environment, take a moment to assess the volume level. Is it too loud? Can you comfortably hold a conversation without straining your voice? If the noise is excessive, consider taking steps to reduce it or protect your ears. Next, how close am I to the source of the sound? Proximity to the noise source matters. The closer you are, as Emma was talking about, the higher the intensity of sound your ears are exposed to. If possible, try to maintain a safe distance from the sources like speakers at concerts or machinery in work. And then lastly, how long have I or will I be exposed to this high volume noise? The duration of exposure is another crucial factor. As we learned earlier, prolonged exposure to loud noises can be detrimental to our hearing. If you anticipate being in a noisy environment for an extended period, consider using hearing protection or taking regular breaks to give your ear some rest. As we near the end, I want to leave you, or we want to leave you all with some food for thought. What sounds would you miss if you were to lose your hearing today? Would it be the birds chirping in the morning, the waves crashing on the beach, a child laughing, Christmas music, a fire crackling? Something to think about. If you are interested in learning more about this topic, we have 3 recommendations for you. First is a podcast called The Science of Healthy Hearing. In this podcast, they bring you into the world of ear and hearing science. With guest speakers, they discuss the latest ear and hearing research and what it means to you. We also have a website that dives deep into occupational hearing loss. This can be beneficial for individuals concerned about noise exposure and its impact on health and safety. The site provides valuable guidance for both workers and employers in various industries to manage and reduce noise exposure in the workplace. It offers practical strategies and recommendations to protect workers' hearing and overall well-being. It also has educational resources, training and education program, research publications, relevant legislation and standards, and much more. And then finally, the Dr. Bynot Show, which offers a child-friendly, engaging, and educational experience that not only teaches kids about how their ears work, but also instills a sense of responsibility towards ear safety. It's an excellent resource for both parents and educators to introduce the concept of hearing health to the young audiences in an enjoyable and informative way. And on that note, as we come to the end of our presentation on hearing loss and ear safety, I want to emphasize the importance of this topic and the impact it has on our lives. We've explored the statistics surrounding hearing loss, challenges faced by individuals worldwide, and the steps we can take to protect our hearing health. By being mindful of the volume, proximity, and duration of noise exposure in our daily lives, we can significantly reduce the risk of hearing loss and ensure a better quality of life. But right before we go, we want to talk about next month's webinar on cannabis safety. So if you choose to use cannabis products, it's important to be aware of the health and safety risks that are associated. So tune in to next month on August 30th from 12 to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to learn about these risks and the various methods of use. Thank you all on behalf of Kapnick Strive for all of your participation and being a part of this important conversation. Have a great day, everybody.